A Yorkville condominium in one of the most expensive areas in the entire country just sold for a loss of $450,000. And right now, at the exact same time, developers are lobbying to bring in more foreign buyers back into this market. So let's think about that for a quick second. The market's down almost $500,000 on a single unit, and the ask is, let's open the door to more foreign capital. The prices are about to rip like there's no tomorrow. But here's the thing that nobody's really saying out loud. Foreign buyers, well, they were really never the entire market, not even close. So today, I actually want to break down who actually benefits if this ban goes away. And spoiler, I don't think it's who you'd assume. My name is Arain. I'm a Toronto real estate broker for the past 16 years, helping buyers and sellers all across the GTA. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. We're trying to grow our channel to 10,000 subscribers, and we're on our way there. If you want any help talking through your specific situation, there's a link in the description below to book a discovery call with me directly. Let's jump right into it. So quick facts first, because I think this is where it gets lost. Canada brought in the foreign buyer ban back in January 2023. What did it actually do? Well, it restricted a lot of non-Canadians from buying residential property in certain markets. The overall idea being is reduce competition and give Canadians a little bit more room. This is really important. It was never a really full shutdown. It was only residential. It didn't touch commercial whatsoever, and it doesn't apply to every single type of buyer. It didn't really remove all the taxes and restrictions that already make it expensive for non-residents to buy in Canada. When the federal ban expires January 1st, 2027, there's still a whole wall behind that wall. Now here's the strongest version of the developer argument, because I do think it's a real one. To understand this, construction lenders usually want a big chunk of the building pre-sold before they release financing. Depending on the project, we're talking somewhere between 60 to 80% range. This isn't some sort of hypothetical. What if the sales slow down scenario? This is happening right now. Rescon's actually been very vocal about this. Their whole argument is basically that the market's already sitting in a slump, inventory is high, sales are absolutely low, not really doing anything except making it harder for capital to actually come into the country, when capital is exactly what a lot of these projects need. So when developers say, we need this foreign buyer ban gone, it's not a theoretical ask. It's literally saying, we have projects right now that are stuck today, and because of this exact math. If a developer can't hit that number, and if it doesn't start, you don't get any new condominiums, you don't get any rental buildings, you don't get any construction jobs, or even any work trades. You get none of that. So this isn't just a scenario where developers want to make money, although sure, that's in there as well. There's a real financing problem beneath this, and a real labor argument behind it as well. So if foreign buyers are allowed back on certain new construction projects, developers can actually hit those thresholds and actually break ground on all their projects. And that's the best case scenario of this policy change. Yorkville condos, some of the most expensive units in the entire city, and as I had mentioned in the beginning of my video, one unit sold for a loss of $450,000. That's $450,000, a loss. And this isn't just a first-time home buyer condo problem, this is a pre-con problem altogether. This is literally trickling in all the way up to the luxury segment, which honestly kind of tells you everything about where the market actually is right now. But this doesn't actually answer the question I really care about. What kind of housing are we actually adding, and who are we actually helping? Because I really want to sit on this for a quick second. More supply is not automatically the same thing as affordable supply. If foreign demand mostly flows into small investor condos, that can help developers hit their pre-con sale numbers for sure. It does not necessarily get first-time home buyers into reasonably priced. A 500 square foot condominium is definitely not a townhouse. More rental supply is absolutely great for renters genuinely, but it does not turn that renter into homeowner. And if the new units are priced way too high, we've just added more expensive inventory to what we already have in the pile. So if somebody says, yes, we need foreign buyers to build more housing, ask the follow-up. More housing for who? Families? First-time buyers? Long-term renters? Or is this really just investor-oriented supply that only makes sense if the price stays high? This isn't just a foreign buyer debate by any means, not at its core. It's a housing type of debate. And honestly, before I even get into the first-time buyer fear piece, let's just ask the obvious question. Who is actually asking the foreign buyer to come back into the market? Let's stop somebody on the street of Toronto and ask them, a first-time home buyer competing against the international capital on top of a weak Canadian dollar that's already discounted for them. Nobody wants that for their kid trying to buy their first home. The only people really pushing for this, loudly, openly, and lobbying for it, are developers. And that's basically it. Not only, and I'll be fair here, there are actually housing academics on the other side of this as well. David Leib, the professor out in UBC, he's been pretty clear about the risk. His concern is basically, you open this all up while the market's already fragile, you're not actually fixing anything. You're just inviting speculative capital back into the market once again, in at the exact moment where prices are finally starting to correct for actual Canadians. So it's just not developers versus everybody else by any means. There's a real academic case here for leaving the ban in place. I do get the nervousness, I really do. People actually remember a few years ago when demand was off the charts, when it was completely insane, bidding wars, people waiving conditions, conditions just to get into the door. And if the foreign money comes back in with a stronger currency behind it, the fear will rewrite itself all over again. Are we literally about to compete against international capital all over again? Think about it. But here's where I think the headline gets a little bit misleading. Even if the federal ban lapses, foreign buyers will still run into walls. Ontario's got a non-residential speculation tax in place. Toronto's got their own municipal layer on top of that. There's financing hurdles, legal costs, currency risks, tax implications, plus just the practical headache of owning a property in a market that you don't even live in. So the federal ban is just really one wall amongst others. You take down the federal ban, there's still a whole tax and regulation structure standing right behind it, which is why I wouldn't assume this automatically snaps us back right into 2021 all over again. I don't really think that's the case. Let's take a look at what happened in Vancouver really quickly. Foreign buyers got blamed heavily for pushing prices up, and government responded with taxes, restrictions, and a whole toolkit of other policies. But the market never moved on one policy alone. Capital control, local taxes, financing changes, population shifts, it was all of it together. Here's the one part that I find really interesting. Vancouver's west side, Point Grave, some of the most expensive dirt in the entire country, valuations have sat flat for the past few years after that big run. Even with international demand technically still out there, that does not guarantee prices keep on climbing forever. Some logic actually applies here. Foreign buyers might come back in some form, but I don't think they come back with the same appetite as they did a few years ago. The market's completely different today. Buyers are more cautious, lenders are more cautious, and developers, well, they're absolutely more cautious, as foreign buyers would be too. So why is this happening now? Why is this conversation even being considered? Part of it is just that the conditions have completely flipped. When the foreign buyer ban came in, vacancy rates are basically nothing. Population growth has slowed extremely, and projects are struggling just to even launch. And I don't even mean struggling in a vague way. A real chunk of these pre-construction projects right now are either getting delayed outright or just canceled, shelved altogether. Which, if you're a developer sitting on land and financing costs that don't pause just because your building isn't moving, I get this policy conversation is happening now 2 years ago. So developers are literally saying this policy made sense in an overheated market is now actively getting in the way of building anything. Honestly, there's a political piece to this as well, that most people don't even talk about. Banning people who can't vote is easy. There's basically no domestic cost to that. That's the one thing that worried people back in 2023. The backlash wasn't from foreign buyers, it was from Canadians. Think about it like this. What if the US had turned around and said the same thing about Canadian snowbirds trying to buy real estate in Florida? That never really materialized. So the political cost of the ban stayed low the whole time, but now the economics have completely flipped and there's really nothing stopping the government from reconsidering it. So here's the tension. Developers are saying the ban's outdated, it's actively hurting the market that's already slowed down. And on the other side, well, you've got people saying, no, the ban is actually working as it should. Prices are finally moderating and they're becoming more accessible, so don't pull the rug out right now. Well, they're both quite legitimate arguments. Both are actually kind of true, depending on which piece of the market you actually fall on. So which one actually wins? Honestly, I don't think either side wins outright. So here's my honest base case. I don't think Canada just rips off every restriction and opens the entire residential market back up. Probably something like where Australia does, where foreign buyers actually participate in new construction, but the existing home market stays protected. That gets developers access to a whole new pool of buyers. It helps some projects hit their pre-sale numbers and supports construction jobs. Politically, the government gets to say we're supporting supply without opening the full door to foreign buyers competing for existing family homes. But here's the most important part, and I don't think this becomes a game changer a lot of developers are actually hoping for. The tax walls are still there, construction costs are high, developer charges are extremely high, approval times in Canada are very slow, and interest rates, well, they still matter. And they matter to a lot of Canadian buyers who still cannot afford what developers need to charge, regardless of who's buying. Foreign capital might help at the margin, but it doesn't fix the whole problem. So what should you take away from this if you're a Canadian buyer? So don't assume the ban ending means prices are going to instantly surge. Don't assume foreign buyers come back in the same numbers they had before, and definitely don't be surprised if the government just carves out a narrow new construction exemption instead of scrapping the whole thing. For most of you, honestly, the bigger factors, well, they're absolutely local. Your income, your mortgage qualification, and what's actually available in your price range. The building quality, the status certificate, closing costs, and whether the place actually works for your lifestyle. All that stuff matters way more than a foreign buyer ban will ever will. This will definitely make headlines in the coming months. It'll create some political pressure. It might help a handful of developers get projects off the ground. But my honest read, this is a targeted policy tweak, not a return to 2021 by any means. The real fix was never bring foreign capital back. The real fix is making it financially possible to build the right homes for Canadians at the right prices. Thanks for watching. My name is Arain, and we'll catch you at the next one.